Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the Tactics of Trav YouTube channel, where we go through all things tactical when it comes to chess. So the way we play chess here is very tactical. It's so complex, the way that we play, that you are going to confuse your opponent. So I have some notes jotted down for today's lesson. This is chess lesson number 5. We're going to go through a very instructive game that I played, game 30, just the other night against a 1960. The game was extremely complex, very tactical, very fun, very interesting. So you guys are going to love this game. I know I did. I wrote down a couple notes, though. I wanted to make sure I highlighted this. So the reason this style of play is so fun, the reason you're going to just enjoy being a part of the Tactics of Trav YouTube channel, guys, so please like and subscribe, is because these moves are highly tactical. They're very complex. You put a lot of stress on your opponent. And when you do that, it's completely different from when you analyze the game after the game through Stockfish, where it says, oh, this was a blunder, this was a mistake, this is inaccuracy. Yes, those things are true, but humans don't have the time or the brains to match computers. So your opponent will likely time out in a lot of those circumstances where Stockfish calculates like a 6, 7, 8 move sequence. It's perfect, full of in-between moves, full of things that the human brain can't really calculate. However, the way that we're training with all the puzzle videos is to be as close as we can be to the engine as far as how we calculate. So it's very tricky the way we play. We set a lot of traps. We do things like, if the opponent does this, this is going to happen 2, 3, 4, 5 moves later. So we do play very complex chess here, but it's a lot of fun. So the other thing too is that humans don't have the time, and Stockfish never blunders. So I think I said that already, but just really want to emphasize that. Let's just get into this game. So I played a 1960, got my computer here as well to make sure that everything is perfect as far as what I explained to you. So this is chess lesson number 5. So my opponent plays e4. So I'm going to play from the perspective of my opponent. I played c5 because it's the best defense. And don't let anybody tell you differently. Never play c6, play c5. He plays c3, which is the Alpin variation. So you guys have seen my previous videos, my Minnesota round 4 game when I beat a 17-29 over the board in an overboard tournament. He played this exact same thing, played the Alpin, and then I respond with d5. So you're going to look at this game from my perspective. I'm going to look at it from my opponent's perspective. He takes here. This is all book. I take back with the queen. So the reason we take back with the queen is because since white played c3, they can't kick me off the d5 square with knight c3 like they normally would be able to. They play d4. This is book. We take back here. They take back here. And I like black here, guys, already, just because that isolated d pawn just looks weird to me. It looks like it could be an easy target, but apparently it's not that bad. White is still plus 0.18 here. Knight c6. We attack the d pawn, put pressure on it right away. This is also very Shigorin-esque. So if you've ever played against d4 players, I like to play that sometimes, which is very, very strange. It's a strange defense. And you just bring the knight out on c6, and then you start pinning the knights on this square and this square with your bishops. He plays knight f3 and bishop to g4, pinning the knight to the queen. And he plays knight c3 here, guys. This is still book. This is still good moves on both sides. And I played queen to h5, which if I could go back in time, I would change this. This is from a human perspective, it's not that bad of a move. But if white were to play perfectly, they could punish me for this. So I played here, but I want to show you this crazy calculation that I went through on this. So if knight c3, the move that I wish I had played and that I will be playing in the future against the Alpin when I get into this formation, will be bishop takes f3, ignoring the attack on my queen. You take my queen, I take your queen. And let's go through this calculation because it's crazy. So Bishop takes f3, knight takes d5. Bishop takes d1, which is me taking his queen. Knight to c7 check. King to d7. Knight takes a8. Bishop to h5. d5. Knight d4. Bishop f4. e5. D takes e6 check. And f takes e6. We don't take back with the knight because we need to maintain the threat upon forking white here. And that's in that calculation, guys. That's a 7-move sequence from Stockfish as to why taking bishop takes f3 is the perfect move as opposed to queen h5, which is more of a human move, which is exactly what we played in the game. But when we get to this formation in the future, and I play somebody else that plays an elephant, I'm going to be playing bishop takes f3. So they're going to have, this is going to put them into a lot of, it's going to put them into a deep think. And I guarantee you, your opponent's not going to think like Stockfish in the 7-move response. But with openings, you can do that because you can memorize openings. So just keep in mind, if we get to this position and they attack your queen on d5, we're going to take their knight on f3, and we're going to get into that. So anyway, really cool sequence. Just want to share that with you, and it's instructive at the same time. So queen to h5 was the game move, which adds more pressure to the knight. And he unpins his knight with bishop to e2, e6. We got to do our best to develop our dark squared bishop and prevent d5. Or at least attempt to prevent d5. Because he plays it anyway, which is a good move. So he plays d5 because he says e6 doesn't stop me from playing d5. It's a good attempt, black, but it doesn't stop me. I castled queenside. So this is where we play fun, interesting chess. We're going to castle this way, right? Okay, go ahead and take my knight. I'm going to take your queen with check. And this is the style in which we play. Setting traps along the way. Queen to a4. He's like, nope, I'm not falling for that. I'm going to unpin my queen. I'm going to develop it at the same time, and I'm going to attack your a7 pawn and put pressure on it because you're going to have to move your knight away, black. So I take, e takes d5, h3. Okay, guys, so question for you. So can white take my bishop? Can they go h takes g4? No, they cannot. So don't worry so much about this because this rook is pinned. So if he castles, then we're going to have to worry about it because his rook will be on f1, king on g1 with nothing pinned. So nothing to worry about quite yet. And I played d4 here, which Stockfish did not like, and I'm going to explain why. So I did see the response by white on this, and in chess.com rated white as playing a brilliant move. But what's interesting is I did see the move, but I didn't think it was going to be as detrimental as it could be if white was a computer and played perfect moves and played it in a 4-move response to that. So let me tell you what that is. So the reason it doesn't like d4 by me is because knight takes d4, exclam, which is a brilliant move. Rook takes d4. Bishop takes g4. Queen takes g4. H takes g4. Rook takes a4. And knight takes a4. So what's interesting, though, is even though I saw knight takes d4, and that was Stockfish's move sequence to debunk my move of d4, I still don't think it's that bad because I wouldn't have responded with rook takes d4. I would have just taken the bishop on e2, which is a completely different sequence, and it doesn't seem to be as horrible as what Stockfish claims will ensue by me having moved d4 with the line that it suggests. So it just another example, guys, of where humans and computers are completely different. And I go back to the notes that I wrote here for myself as to why you should still play this way, because humans won't have the time or the capability to be, probably GMs do, but we're not in the same league with GMs, guys. Like, they're totally different. Like, they're probably way smarter than you and I both. I have 126 IQ, so I'm not exactly like the dumbest person in the world. 140 is a genius, and anything above that. But GMs are, exclude them from your thought process. And let me go off on a tangent for a second. When you watch GM games, guys, like, you can't even contemplate a lot of the moves that they're making, especially if you're following guys like Hikaru and Magnus, because they're so advanced that it doesn't do you any good to follow their games. It does you a lot of good to follow my games, because at least my game's relatable and practical to where you're at. So if you're a 500 rated, 1000, 1500 rated player, even a 2000, like, I beat 2000s online. So just keep that in mind when you're following GM games or watching other YouTubers that are clipping their content and going over. You're probably not going to be able to emulate their style of play because they're too far advanced. So when you follow mine, it's going to be very broken down and very explained. So anyway, let me get off my soapbox for a second. But after d4, he played knight d4, knight takes d4. Great move by white. And I took the bishop. So, like, I didn't even play the stockfish move that it suggested that black should play, and I wouldn't have done that. And so I took on e2, which it still ranked that as an excellent response. So I didn't play the move that it said I should have played, but it still said this was excellent. All right. 13. Knight D takes e2. Okay, so white, it did say that white made a miss here, because what it wanted him to do was, and this is why. So there's actually more to the story on why d4 it says that wasn't a good move. So because the computer can see it all, right? So he played knight D takes e2, which is what I thought he was going to play, but that's because I'm also a human. If he had done the stockfish line, it goes like this: knight takes c6, bishop to d3, knight takes d8, knight f6, knight takes b7, king takes b7, queen to d4, bishop c5, queen takes d3, rook to e8 check, and king to f1. So you would have to have seen all of that to properly assess and evaluate the position to say that d4 was a mistake and that knight d takes e2 was a miss. You would have to have understood that line in order to know that this was a miss. But this is a human move, guys. This is more practical. This is what's going to happen. So knight d takes e2 and knight f6. Castles, kingside, bishop to c5. And knight g3, attacking my queen. And I played queen to g6. Queen to c4, attacking my bishop. And I played a move here which I still like. I think it's a clever move. It's a very tactics with Trav move. But of course, Stockfish disagrees with it and says it's a blunder. But I'm going to explain to you why I disagree. So I took on f2 with check here, which is crazy, right? So you're looking at this and saying, oh, it is a good move, because if rook takes f2, queen takes g3, and we win a pawn. So we sacked our bishop, but we would have won a pawn and a knight. However, white doesn't have to take back with the rook here. He takes back with the king. Great move by white, but I had seen this and I thought that it was still an interesting move to play, because of what ensues. So after king takes f2, we play rook to d4, attacking the queen. We start gaining a bunch of valuable tempos. We activate a lot of our pieces, and we're only down 2 points here. Queen to e2, rook to e8, gaining more time, gaining more tempo, attacking white's queen. So look at our pieces, guys. They're very active. Queen to f3. Now, what I was worried about and what I had to be careful of was queen to f5 check, trading off our queens, because we're down material. We don't want to trade our queen for his queen because we're surely going to lose in the endgame if that happens. So we have to get clever and be smart about how we're going to proceed here so that we don't trade off our queen. So I played queen to c2 check, and the idea was obviously just getting my queen from getting forked on f5 where I'd have to trade off. But also, if white, after white gets out of check here, decides to go queen to f5 check anyway, and I was a little bit worried about that, because if queen f5 check after he gets out of check here, king b8 could be met with bishop to f4 check, gaining valuable tempos on his side, and I'd have to put my king in the corner on a8, and his pieces are very active, because as it stands now, these two pieces aren't in the game. So that's when you're playing this way, you're playing sharp double-edged positions. You have to keep in mind that if your opponent's pieces aren't active, they're technically not in the game, and so that material disadvantage you might be in is not really a thing yet. So when you look at like Morphy's games from the 1800s, yes, I know it's like hundreds of years ago, but he really showed us that. He demonstrated that when you're active, you're being proactive in just the way that you're playing upbeat, up tempo chess. You can really catch your opponents off guard, because a lot of times they're just not prepared, even if they have a material advantage on you. So we're playing that way. So queen c2 check, avoiding the queen trade of queen f5 check, king g1, and rook to d3. Now, I liked this move a lot, because that was my way of blocking that fork here on f4 or f5 check, which I'd have to trade my queen off. So it blocks and interferes that, but also at the same time attacks the queen. But after rook d3, queen to f2, and knight d4. I really like this move. So guys, this is all product of playing bishop takes f2 check, which is why I still like that move. But knight to d4, I really like this move. I thought it was pretty clever, because here's what happens. If queen takes c2, then knight takes c2 with a double attack. The knight attacks the rook here on a1, and the rook that moved to d3 initially to attack the queen attacks the knight. So he would move himself into a double attack if he were to take my queen. And this game's been tricky so far, guys. So it's really easy for opponents to blunder when you have attack after attack and pretty complex ideas in the position. So he took on c2. And so he walks right into what we were planning. And naturally, like a human, he played rook b1, but Stockfish didn't agree with this. And this is pretty crazy, guys. It's actually pretty interesting to see why. So I took in the game, I took the knight, because that's what we were threatening, right? The double attack. But let me just go back for a second to show you something, because I did think this was really interesting. So the reason it doesn't like rook b1 is because, check out this sequence. It wanted him to just leave the rook here on a1, because he would flip the double attack on me. So just to show how crazy computers are and how well they calculate and how we're nothing like them. he wanted, or the Stockfish wanted white to move knight f5. Knight takes a1, so just go ahead and lose the rook, white. No, don't worry about it. Watch what happens. Knight takes a1. Knight takes g7. Rook to g8. Bishop to h6. Super cool move because it would protect the knight here, but it would also open an attack on my knight that would have taken here on a1. This is how deep the computer thinks. Knight to d5. Knight takes d5. Rook takes d5. Rook to c1 check. Got to throw in the in-between move too. King to b8. And rook takes a1. That is what you would have to understand. A 6-move sequence in order to know that this was not the best way to deal with this problem. So you see what I'm saying? Like, we as humans don't have the capability to project that far out. Maybe the top level guys, the GMs and chess, can figure that out, but that's going to take a ton of time, guys. Like, we don't have time for that. Like, this is game 30, and I'm still going to play this way in game 90. It's been serving me fine, and I've been moving up the ranks. So in the game, he played rook b1 like a human would play, and I took the knight. So just thought that was a really cool line to share with you as to why rook b1 is technically a blunder, but you know, who's going to see that? So after rook takes g3, bishop to f4, attacking my rook, and my rook goes back to d3. Rook b to c1, attacking my knight. Knight e3, knight to d5. Stockfish really like that move by white. It's a good move because it's a check, right? Discovered check. And it's just really, really tricky for me. So I did see this, which is why I moved knight e3, because I still have 2 defenders. My rooks, I have 2 rooks defending my knight on e3, even with the discovered check. King to d8. Knight takes e3. Rook e takes e3. Bishop takes e3. Rook takes e3. Rook f to d1. Check. King e7. Rook c7 check. Good move. Rook's on the 7th. Usually a good thing. King e6. Rook takes b7. Another good move. And a5. Just get the pawn out of the way. Move it up. King f2. Rook e5. Defending the a5 pawn laterally also. Rook e1. Trying to trade off, which is smart because technically he's up material white, right? So I have a knight for a rook, so I'm down 2 points. Knight e4 check, avoiding the trade. King g1. g6. Rook c1. Knight d6. Attacking the rook and defending the pawn on f7. Rook b6. Rook to d5. Defending my knight, but also releasing the defense of my, because he's pinning my knight to my king, right? So if I can defend my knight and then move my king, it allows my king to move. king to f2, h5, king f3, king f5, getting the opposition, getting my king unpinned. Rook c to c6. And one thing to mention here, guys, is these are all like really good moves. These are excellent moves. Like chess.com loves these moves. They're all, our end games are solid. So, and also like we have ample time here. So he has 10 minutes, I have 10 minutes, but the clock does become a problem for both of us. Knight to e4, rook to b7, f6, g4 check. Good move. H takes g4. Check. H takes g4 check. King e5. Now, so here's the thing, guys. Like, this is a critical part of the game. So this is a tough position for me because my king's defending my knight, right? And after g4 check, h takes g4, h takes g4 check. If we move our king to g5, which is actually the stockfish line for us, which is weird, then king just takes on e4, we lose our knight. So, but we're not computers, so make your opponent work for it. So I played king e5, knowing that as soon as I move king g5, he's just going to take king takes e4, we'll lose our knight. But make your opponent work for it, especially because we're both in somewhat of time trouble. I think we have each, like maybe, I think I had 4 minutes. What do you have? Hold on, I have it written down here. 3 minutes. White has 3 minutes and 26 seconds, and I have 4 minutes and 15 seconds. So we're still relatively okay on time, but still, you know, it's pretty low. So this is game 30. So we're doing our best to simulate training for over the board games, which are game 90 with increment of 30 seconds, or in some cases 2 hours where you have to make 40 moves in 2 hours and you get an extra 30 minutes. So I mean the game winning move for white here is what? Pause your videos. Simple tactic. Rook to e7 check would win on spot, skewering black's king. So if you played rook e7 check, it goes like this. King to, say, d4, rook takes e4 check, and king to d3. So black or white would be a full piece ahead. But in time trouble, because white had, you know, just a couple minutes, I had a couple minutes, he missed it. He didn't see rook to e7 check, guys. So that's why I say make your opponents work for it. So you played rook c to b6. You played it here, so you just missed the tactic altogether. Knight d2 check. King to e2. Knight to c4. Attacking the rook on b6, but also defending the pawn on a5. Rook b5. a4. Rook takes d5 check. King takes d5. Rook to b4. And f5. G takes f5. G takes f5. King to d3, getting the opposition and centralizing his king. Knight to e5 check. And king to c3. a3. I did like this move. I thought this was kind of a clever move by me. Attempting to double his pawns, because if he does, it's going to discoordinate his pawns, and it's going to make him a lot slower to try to promote down the board, because this is a big problem for me, guys, in the end game. If I didn't have that a3 pawn, we'd be in some serious trouble, because he could just roll his pawns all the way down the board as he should. So pass pawn must be pushed. So A3 attempts at B takes A3, and then they're just slow because they're clunky, they're doubled, and it's going to really help me if he were to do that. So, but he's a good player. He doesn't fall for that. Plays B3, knight C6. Rook A4. King E5. B4. Knight to D4. Now I really like this move too. It's another Tactics with Trav type move for our channel because, you know, it's just kind of a simple tactical idea, but test your opponents, guys. Make them prove to you why they deserve to win the game. So really put as much pressure as you can. Try to create traps, because if Rook takes A3, what are we going to do? Knight to B5 check, winning the Rook. King D3. Knight to C6. B5. Knight to D8. Oh, and one thing to mention here, guys, because I kept track of the time, because one of the points I'm making in this video is that time is a problem when you get into these complex positions that are very tactical. Humans won't have the ability to calculate these quickly, and because of that, their time is going to be a problem. So after knight to D8, he has 41 seconds on the clock, guys. I have a minute and 46, so we're both super low on time. We start out, this is game 30, so we're not playing blitz or anything. B6, knight to C6, rook takes A3, finally picks up that pawn, F4. But the problem is his time, guys. He's just super low on his time. King D2, King E4, B7, and F3, and then white timed out. So that's not uncommon, guys. Like even in game 30, because I only play rapid, I don't play rap. I definitely don't play blitz, and I definitely don't play bullet, because I like to play the most optimal moves that I can find. And just my opinion that blitz and bullet are you're gonna train yourself in playing suboptimal moves. But there is some value in it as far as like learning how to play fast and time controls. But you can still get that at a game 30, and this is going to simulate much more of an over the board tournament environment. So proud of the win, even though I was technically down here. There was a lot of complexities in the game, guys, like very, very complex game. And so I made sure to give you the computer analysis moves as well, because it's a lot to learn from as far as like the perfect move and why a lot of times, even though it calls it a blunder or a mistake, it's not very practical to expect us to find those moves. Because like, as I showed you, those are 6-7 move sequences with a lot of twists and turns in them that you would have to identify in the game to know that that was a blunder, and that's just not practical. So like with that double attack that I calculated, which I thought was pretty good, that's technically a blunder apparently, because if white had seen it, they could have played bishop to h6, which creates a double attack, and so white doesn't have to worry about the rook being lost on a1, because 6 moves later they get it back. But that's totally impractical, guys. So anyway, I hope you learned a lot and that you like this video. Make sure to like and subscribe to my video, guys, because it really helps me in the YouTube algorithm, and share this with a friend of yours that plays chess. But anyway, watch this puzzle that I have posted for tonight, because it goes through an in-game puzzle that's really good. And also want to congratulate Maki JV for winning the drawing. So Maki JV won the USCF notebook for the drawing that we had. So congratulations. Thank you for being a loyal subscriber and commenter. And I encourage a lot of you to do the same, because I got more cool stuff that I'll be bringing out. The next one's going to be a rook knit cap that's just really sweet. So anyway, guys, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.